Moku is the ancient name of this bay when referring to the waters, Kai o Malulani. And so we're going to get to see the Ahua Laka. We're going to get to see the Kapapa Ia Laka. You're going to get to see Moku Oloi. We may get a glimpse of Moku Manu and Kekepa. These are all different islands here in our Ko'amoku Moku o Heʻeia. And then you may wonder how I know all this story, because our kupuna is named Ko'amoku Moku o Heʻeia. They are here. They are the iwihanau o ka aina. They are the bones that are born from the land itself. They are the noho papa. The noho papa are the generations that not only come from here but never left here. And yeah, we never left Heʻeia. We're still in Heʻeia. You know, there's an ancient story that says the akua will create the aina. So the aina is an akua, but the aina will create man. So we're all connected. And you know, when I hear this term, like last year I heard the term, what was it called? Aina learning, Aina-based learning. And I had to correct everybody, but I don't know if they would listen, but you cannot do Aina-based learning until you do Akua-based learning, then Aina-based learning, and then Kanaka-based learning, how we all connect. Another very sacred place, because when the gods departed the floating island that we call Mokulana, you see, the god Kane made a decree or a decision, and he asked all the gods and goddesses of Nu'umealani, Ku'aihelani, all these sacred places on the floating island called Mokulana, to leave that god we call Kane Kapo'okuna Kapu Ikeauli, the god whose head or visage is hidden in the Au'uli, the dark cloud. And of course we know these are Kinolau of the god Kane. Anyway, he orders everybody to leave, so they leave Mokulana, or Kane Hunamoku. And this is a magical story because he puts them all in these shell boats or shell canoes. So they all enter the shell magically, and then he puts the shell on the water, and all these shells start floating away. But they're floating away with intent. They're coming to the island of Oʻahu, because on Oʻahu is where he told them they're going to settle. Well, the shells all land in Heʻeia, the transition point. Heʻeia to transition. So they come to Heʻeia, and the goddess of all the gods and goddesses is Ke'aumelemele. Ke'aumelemele is the first to land here. So she names this land after her home. So her home was called Kealohi. This is called Kealohi. So this is important because the gods now, from this point here, travel all the way over Nu'uanu and then make their home. Is that where the Honolulu Country Club is, below Nu'uanu, in that beautiful valley? That is Waulani. And at Waulani is where they make their home. Well, on their travels, Ke'aumelemele established these minor gods and goddesses as kupua to be kia'i of these different land areas. So there is another story, because I debated whether to bring you here or take you up to Kekele to see what happened when Ke'aumelemele took the different gods and goddesses like Kekele herself and Lanihuli and Hi'ilanivai, where she established their domain before she finally went over to Nu'uanu. So if you look behind this beautiful area called He'eia State Park, is actually Kealohi. Now, one day when the tide is very low and you walk in front of Kealohi, you're going to see lava beds, beautiful lava beds. This is where in legend we connect to Hele and her family stopping here. The previous story about her family, her sister who committed suicide, Malulani, on behalf of her sister, Ka Ohelo, and then the sister, Vaialani, that prepared her body, and then Pele took the bones and deposited the bones at Kilauea in Hale, Ma'u. If you look that way, you can see our Moku Oloi, our coconut island. Moku Oloi, that small island there, connects us to Ke'ahi Akahoi because they were brother and sister. Ke'ahi Akahoi became that beautiful mountain that you're looking at the backdrop that connects the valleys of Ha'iku and Ioleka'a to the Ahupua'a of He'eia. Moku Oloi is in the Ahupua'a of He'eia. And a whole half of Mokapu is still in our Ahupua'a. They still belong in He'eia. We're in He'eia. He'eia ends on this side. At that mountain there we call Ma'eli'eli. It ends on that side at Kea'ahala Stream. Everything in between, which includes this bay, just so you all know, that they call Kaneohe Bay, is not in Kaneohe. It is in He'eia. But just because it's easier to say Kaneohe Bay, the true name is Ko'amokumoku o He'eia. Ma'eli'eli is very, very important. Let me go back to Lai o Kealohi. That is Elena. That is where all the spirits gather. And if they were good people in their lives, there is a door that will open, we call the Lena. And if their aumakua come out of the Lena and grab them and pull them in, they will go into the aumakua, the enlightenment of the ancestors. But if you're bad and you kolohe and you do bad things, you cannot go in. They're not going to let you in. Your aumakua, who are your ancestors, are going to ho'ole, refuse you into the enlightenment. And this is why our lahui has big kuleana in perpetuating the pono. If we perpetuate the pono, we're going through. If we never perpetuate the pono, then pono ole, we cannot go. This place here called Ma'eli'eli is where the goddess Hina, when He'eia, transcend to be the goddess of the moon. The story is her and her kane, her husband, were down here in the valley. And of course, Hawaiian people, like me, we're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 7 hours of work. And we don't take lunch. We work all the way through. And who likes to work in the hot sun? We work in the early morning hours. We get paupono no kahana. Now, so her kane had finished wanted to hiamoi, sleep. And his wahine, that was Hina, was ku'ikapa, pounding the tapa. And he couldn't fall asleep, so they went, ho'opa'apa'a, they had an argument between the two of them. Ho'opa'apa'a no la'ua kekahi kekahi. And so they had an argument. So, the argument escalated to the point where she would hit him with the ku'ikapa, the tapa mallet. And he was all nuha, he got huhu, chased her all the way up to the top there. And from the top there, she had no place to go. And so she went kahe akuno iaia ikona mau aumakua. She called to all her ancestors. Kahe aku oia ina kini akua, called to the akua, and they came and they grabbed her and they started to lift her up into the sky. But her husband, her kane, was fast and he would grab onto her leg. So they had a tug of war match with Hina. Eventually, he would pull her leg off, fell down, and that's why there is a phase of the moon we call Lono Muku. Lono Muku talks about the exact time when Muku Ia, her leg, was cut off. And of course, she ascended into the sky with only one leg. If you look that way, the pointed hill, that's Pu'u'ohule. The two round mounds, that's Vaiuoleva. That whole cliff is known as Paliku. The small island we call Mokoli'i, because Heʻeia had a battle out there with the mo'o, and what had happened was she defeated the mo'o, and she cut Ia the tail, the huelo, and threw him in the ocean. And that is the only thing left of that giant mo'o, the tip of the tail. that sticks out of the ocean, and we call it moʻoliʻi. And people say, oh no, that is mokuli'i, small island. No, it's not. Moko is mo'o. Li'i, the small mo'o. And that was the mo'o that she killed. And that is the only thing that remains of mokuli'i. That island out there, the one that looks like a mushroom, that's Kekepa Island. That hill there that looks like a pyramid, that is Pu'u Hawaiiloa. Behind Pu'u Hawaiiloa is Pu'upa'u. Now, Pu'u Hawaiiloa is very, very important. That is because in the ancient story of our people, all life was created from Pu'u Hawaiiloa. So, this is where the gods came down. Ku, Kane, Lono, and Kanaloa. And they created the first man. That was Kumu Honua. They created the first woman. That was Keakahulilani. And then you wonder, how all the men going to create? Well, they had the wahine, the earth, that was Papahanaumoku. So from the earth, look this side, look at beautiful Kealohi. At the very top of Kealohi was the heiau. The heiau is Ka'alai Nui, Hina. Ka'alai Nui Akane. Ka'alai Nui Akane. And the Ko'amano is the reef for the sharks. And the kupuna of our area here, because right here where you see that hut on this side of the local I'a, that is where all our kupuna lived. We are from Kealohi. And out here was a small reef, and all the kupuna would bring the mea'ai to feed the mano. The mano that were related to the family. Not every mano is related to everybody. You have to know which one is your ʻohana. You have to know the name. You have to know the chant to call them. And you have to know the proper ho'okupu, the proper mohai offering of food to give to them. You cannot feed them something that is not of their kuleana, their lineage, their mo'okuauhau, or their mo'olelo. And this is the ko'abano right here. This is it, right here. So if you see sharks swimming around here, they're looking for you guys, not me. The mano, get plenty mano out here. And this is the reef. You see, very close to the land. So they would come out on their canoe and they would feed from the reef all the mano, the ʻohana. And you know, there are so many stories about these mano, these great sharks in the water here. To the left of me, you see Loko I'a o Heʻeia. That is the fish pond. And again, there was a kupua. Now, what are kupua? Kupua are these like demigods that are half human. They have spirit or akua descent through a male or a female. They have supernatural powers, and the akua set them in these different areas to be the guardians of the people, especially ʻohana, people that they're related to. Well, the kupua of Loko I'o He'eia is a huge mo'o wahine we call haumea. Haumea is related to Kameha'ekana, another mo'o wahine, another major goddess of this area. And they are the guardians of Ko'amokumoku o He'eia, as well as Kai o Malulani. Also, too, they are the protectors of the people of the blood, the iwi, the i'o, and the koko. And that's how we discern ʻohana here in Hawaii. Not by color, but if you get the blood and the flesh and the bones of those ancient kupua. We, the people of the iwi, the i'o, and the koko, we have blood, flesh, and bones that connect us to the aina and to the kupua. And why? Because I'm going to tell you the story of Pu'u Hawaiiloa. When the gods that came down to create mankind, the head god was the god Kane. And Kane made the other gods gather the onekea of Kahakahaʻea, the white sand of Kahakahaʻea, and the lepo ele of Puʻu Loa. So here you get black and white. But the God himself would gather the lepo alaya, the red dirt. And the red dirt was key in creating mankind. So he took his vainau, the spit from his mouth, and with his own spit, he mixed the white sand of Kahakahaʻea, the lepo ele of Mololani, and then he took the lepo alaya, the red dirt. And with all of that, he created Kumu Honua. And with his voice, he said to the image, stand, Heola. And this is a reflection of our Olelo Noeau that says, Ika Olelo Keola, Ika Olelo Kamake. With the voice, you can command life or you can bring death. So, after the man stood up, they gave him the name Kumu Honua. The source of your life is the earth. So, in essence, he was born from the womb of Papa Hanaumoku, like how all life is created. You need the Hawaii of the male and the female, the waters that contain the life of both male and female. All right, when he stood up in the sun, he cast a shadow. And the gods saw that beautiful shadow, and from the shadow, they created the first woman. They call Keakahulilani, that when the heavens turned and revealed the sun, it cast a shadow, and that was her name, Keakahulilani. All these places you're looking at the left is Heʻeia. So our Ahupua'a went from Ioleka and Haiku clear across this ocean that they like to refer as Kaneohe Bay, ko a moku moku o Heʻeia, goes to Mokapu. And the name of half of Mokapu is still Heʻeia, but they like to refer to it as Mokapu. It's not. And I'm going to fight one day that they give it back its rightful name. Like, you know, as Ivihanau Oka'aina, for the things our kupuna left for us, that today we gotta fight for. Yeah, I will fight, because that's half of your place is Mokapu. Recognize that half, the half on this side, but this half belong to this kupuna here. This is Heʻeia. So, you know, we still never get to Kia Ahala. So you see all these people, believe it or not, on the address they get Kaneohe, you're in Heʻeia. And it's a big thing for us because we, Ivihanau, we born here. We know this land like the back of our hand. We know every island. We know every mountain peak. We know every plant. We know all the history and all the moʻolelo. We are connected to these things. It is a pilina. And so, you see, even over there, yeah, I don't live over there, but I'm going to tell you. You see that little mound right there, the mound in front of us? Yeah, behind you, a bigger mound. One is called Ke'awanui and one is called Ke'awaiki. Out there you can see that island. That's of course what we call Kekepa Island. And this is Moku Oloi. Moku Oloi. Loi was the sister of that big mountain called Ke'ahia Kahoi, brother and sister. And I'm lucky because very fortunate and very appreciative because I know all these stories. I'm the one they usually will get to tell them to explain what the connection is. And at one time, our ʻohana, they claimed to own this island. And I had one grand auntie that lived on the island, and because she had to go to school in the morning, and all these stories are documented, she had to swim from the island to the main island of Oʻahu with her clothes in one bundle above her head, arrive on one side. Our kupuna smart, they change clothes, they hang the wet clothes on the tree, then they go school, they walk up the hill, then they come back, change clothes again, and come back swim to their home. Their home was actually on this island, but Queen Emma visited the island. And I hope one day in the future, before I get too old, yeah, one day in the future, they will allow me to have a hula festival, because mele were written to honor Queen Emma on her visits to Moku'oloi. And I want to do a hula festival on this island, and I want to do a hula festival on the Oʻahu of Laka. I don't know if that one is going to happen because of global warming. It's not like the good old days when the island was above water. Now Oʻahu Alaka is below the water. But because it is a moku, what we say, kalakupua or kukalapua, it may reveal itself in the future in its very mystical way and be above water again. That is moku kukalapua because the kupua, kukalakupua, is in the aina. You cannot see that kupua, but the kupua is there. The kupua takes the island beneath the water, and the kupua takes the island above the water. So we have to wait. All of that depends on the kupua. That this place has so much sacredness. I told you the story of the creation of Kumu Honua, the source of the earth. Keakahulilani. Now listen to their names. Kumu Honua becomes the male, Keakahulilani, the female. Really no different than Papa, Bakea and Papa. So now, these two come together and have a child. Their child is Kapapa Ialaka. Remember those names, Kumu Honua, Keakahulilani, and their child Kapapa Ialaka. Because these people become the grandparents, the great-grandparents, the great-great-grandparents of Lilinoi, Poliahu, Vaiau, and all the kupuna of Mauna Kea. Their kupuna are here. And when you look behind at that pyramid-shaped hill behind me, that's Pu'u Hawaiiloa. And the mo'olelo says, Pu'u Hawaiiloa gave birth to Kumu Honua, Keakahulilani, and we'll show you Kapapa Ialaka, who are the kupuna of Mauna Kea. Sadly, when our own people don't know their own genealogy, and we're not connected to the truth of the birth and the succession of the birth, we're not connected to, truthfully, Mauna Kea. Where did Mauna Kea come from? If you were to ask the Hawaiian, where Mauna Kea come from? You gotta say, Pu'u Hawaiiloa. The kupuna of every island, every landform, of everything is that small hill that we call Pu'u Hawaiiloa. And I challenge anybody, go study, go read, go talk to people who know our history. That pu'u, called Hawaiiloa, is where all life was born. This is where Papa and Vakea came from. They came from Heʻeia. In the story, yeah, Papa and Vakea are washed out into the ocean. There was a huge tidal wave that took everybody out. Hence the word Heʻeia, washed away. They were transitioned. Well, they were washed away. And their kahuna, komo'ava, when make one plea, when kahea to the akua, and the akua said, if you can make an offering, we will save you. And so they caught one fish. The ava fish, which symbolized the ava, which was the appropriate mohai, the gift, and they would offer the gift. They got together and would join hands, and they would create the heiau. And then the kahuna, Komo'ava, officiated the ceremony. The gods accepted, took the whole family, brought them back to the island of Kapapa. We're going to get to that island, Kapapa. Kapapa I Laka. Kapapa I Laka is the kupuna of Papa and Wakea. So, befitting, the ancient gods would bring them to Kapapa I Laka. And from Kapapa I Laka, they were able to walk back to the akua of Heʻeia. So then they named their grandson Heʻeia after all of them were washed out into the sea. And because of that prayer, they were all brought back. So now that same Heʻeia was the lover of Ka'ohelo. So all the stories are connected. Pilino, kekahi kekahi. And there is our beautiful Pu'u Hawaii Loa for white sand beach. That's the white sand of Kahakahaʻea. This side they can get the black dirt. And from Pu'u Hawaii Loa, the red dirt. And that's how they created. And that's why when you talk to the Hawaiian, yeah, and you talk about color, it's not about black and white, it's not even about brown. It's about being the iwi, the bones, the i'o, the flesh, and the koko, the blood. Because when we qualify and quantify who we are by color, then that's not what our kupuna said. You're a Hawaiian by blood, bones, and flesh, which means your genealogy. Your genealogy from the great ancestors to you. Look, all the beautiful papa, the reefs. Each and every reef here has a story. The biggest one we call malauka'a, and that's the best one for catching he'e. The papa he'e o malauka'a is an old moʻolelo no eau. Why? Two things. You're going to malauka'a, that's where you're going to catch he'e, but make sure you know, drown out there. He'e is the same word. Transition, slip away, drown. He'eia no I Kelawai, kapapa he'e o malauka'a. They went to that area there, that sacred spot they called Palikilo. And from the Palikilo is where they received these spiritual messages that they interpreted on behalf of the people. So if there was some event, something that happened, and they needed to communicate with the akua, the gods, they went to Palikilo. And from Palikilo, they were able to communicate. Each aina here is connected to an akua. And because of that, and the kupua, they connected to the iwi hanau, the native people, the descendants that are born on this land. And so that should give you a good idea, yeah, a more understanding. When you're going to talk aina based, you got to connect the aina to the akua that it descended from. If you're going to talk about aina based, then you got to talk to the people that descend from that piece of land. Because it's all connected, never disconnected. Between the mokumanu and that flat papa that connects the two, that's where the mermaids used to gather. And this area here is known for lots of mermaids. Manu Oʻahu, and we know the names too. Manu Oʻahu was a very well-known mermaid from this district here, and Moana Nui Kalehua was another mermaid, and there are several others from this area here. And the Kama'aina, the Kupa'aina, the Iwi Hanau, they're familiar with the stories. And those mermaids were connected to the goddess of the mountain we call Kameha'ikana. So one of the major goddesses up here, Kameha'ikana, connects to everything here and the mermaids. Remember now, the akua was first. How are the akua coming? Matu, palikino, kupa, Hawaii loa. Yep.